What's up, everybody? It's your best friend here, KingCake, aka Cole Sauer. Just coming in at the beginning of the episode here to let you know that this one's going to be just a little bit different than the normal episodes. We kind of got off to a really good start, and we ended up talking for a really long time, so I've actually decided to split this into 2 episodes. So what you're getting right now is part 1, and then next week you'll be getting part 2. So part 1, we just kind of talk and chat. Part 2 is the one that has lightning round, the social media question, all the normal stuff. So enjoy this episode. Make sure you subscribe, hit the like, share, comment, all those kinds of things that I normally ask you to do. And then next week it will be part 2, and then after that we're going to go back to just one episode per week, one guest per week. This one just ended up going a little bit long, so I figured rather than letting you guys listen to 2.5 hours, I just kind of split it into 2 hour-long chunks. So like I said, make sure you like, share, subscribe, and all those kind of things, and we'll see you next time.
Let's be best friends.
Hello, I'm Cole Sauer, and welcome to Let's Be Best Friends, a podcast where I talk to people that I barely know and try and convince them to be my new best friends, because in times like these, who needs enemies? My guest on the show today is a wonderful Toronto comedian who's been featured on Just for Laughs and Kevin Hart's LOL network, Courtney Gilmour. Courtney, how are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. If I can peel back the curtain, that's the first time I've ever gotten through a whole intro without fucking it up at least once, so...
Is that true?
That
wow.
feels good. Oh yeah, no. Every other episode, I'll start into it, and then I'm like, oh shit, and like, stop it, start it again.
Well, you did good. I'm proud of you.
I feel so good about it. So, at the beginning of our interview, Larry King used to always say that there's 5 questions you have to answer in every interview: who, what, where, when, and why. And because I'm a bad interviewer, I like getting them out of the way right off the jump. So, Courtney.
Okay.
Who are you? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Who am I? I'm Courtney Gilmour. I'm a comedian. I'm a woman, she, her. I'm currently a little bit out of a job in the quarantine, and I'm a fun lover, and I'm a cat enthusiast. I love a good fluffy kitty. And yeah, that's a pretty good start, I think, to who I am. Some identifiers. I am an amputee. I don't like to identify myself as that, but I don't have a choice because it wasn't a choice of mine. So I don't have hands, and it's just a thing I'm trying, just like a fact statement that I'm making work.
I saw a commercial about it once. It looked really cool. I don't know.
It looked really cool. I was like, what? I'll give it a go. I'll give it a try. And but yeah, that's a little brief blurb, I think.
So you said the quarantine's got you out of a job. You're a full-time comedian then?
I am a full-time comedian. We are kind of like, depending on when people watch this podcast in the future, we are kind of heading towards. Well, I don't want to be preemptive and saying the end, but we're rolling into a different stage where things are opening up a little bit more. So there are slowly, incrementally becoming more opportunities for work, which I'm just starting to see now. But yeah, I've been effectively out of work for since March.
Yeah. So
yeah.
What's your opinion on Zoom shows? I always like to ask the comedians about this.
What's my opinion on Zoom shows?
Yeah. Have you been doing them? Do you think they're going to keep happening?
Yeah, so I'm glad that they're happening because I'm all for creatively finding, being resourceful and finding other avenues of, entertainment. Mm-hmm. So I think they're a good idea. I have done some. They're not my favorite forms of some of them have been fun and others have been kind of awkward, and they're just not really the way stand-up is supposed to be. It's not really supposed to be with that barrier of technology between you. So it's been interesting. It's been a fun challenge, but I haven't been booking myself solid with Zoom shows. I've been saying no to some when I feel I'm just not up to the task. Because here's something that I realized during quarantine is we're all going through a collective crisis, and if I don't want to add anything to my schedule that I'm potentially going to dread.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I think that, like, I don't want that to be part of my life anyway. Like, I don't want to dread things in my schedule, but particularly during a global pandemic, I don't want to, like, looking at my Google Calendar and be like, oh, I've got a show on Friday on Zoom and I don't want to do it and I have to make people laugh who I can't see or whatever.
Yeah.
So I've been trying to, like, eradicate things that make me anxious during an already anxious time. But that said, though, I did one where you actually could see the audience and you could hear them, and they were all, like, they were very quiet and attentive, and it actually was really fun that way because you could have, like, a sense of the energy in the room, and you could, like, look at people and talk to them. So that was kind of cool. People are working out the kinks, I feel.
Yeah, I feel like that's what it is. It's just like people have been doing it for 3 months, so now they're starting to understand it. I think once they crack the code on the audience, I think that's like really the thing. Because stand-up comedy is so much about like the energy and reading the room and all those kinds of things.
Yeah, totally. Exactly. So you have to kind of work around things until you can sort it out. But yeah, the audience factor is that's a huge variable. So I think that, like, having the laughter that you can hear, I think that's a plus. So you don't feel like you're just screaming into the abyss, you know? Yeah,
exactly. I think that's the problem I had with the first, like, set of Zoom shows, because I was trying to watch them and just support people, but it was like people doing their routine and taking pauses, and it was like,
Totally. Yeah, you can't, I mean, it's going to translate differently. So I think that as producers, you need to work around the barriers, but as comedians, you have to accommodate that too. You can't, I guess you can just do your set straight, but I don't think it's going to land the same way. So yeah, I definitely noticed that too within the first round. God bless people who are actually watching Zoom shows. Like, that's actually amazing thing to support during this time. So good for people who are doing that.
I feel bad. I'll pop in and be like, like I'll go in the, like, a chat or whatever they have set up, and I'll be like, hey, this is great, and then I kind of dip. Like,
oh yeah, like when you accidentally click on an Instagram live and you didn't mean to, and you're like one of 2 people there,
and you're like, oh shit.
Do I have to stay for like an obligatory 10 seconds?
Is there a time where it's no longer rude to leave?
Yeah, I know. We can't escape social. That's the thing about this, is you can't escape social anxiety even in isolation.
If anything, it's worse because there's like there's not the context that human interaction has. It's all text. And everyone is interpreting your text.
Absolutely. Oof. For sure.
So you are a full-time comedian. Tell me a bit how you got into comedy.
Yeah, so I started almost like my very first show or like series of intermittent sporadic shows was nearly 10 years ago.
Wow.
And it was in Windsor, Ontario. I was not living here for a while, and I just kind of I didn't grow up being a class clown or like super gregarious or outgoing, or like, I don't think that anybody in my life knew in any capacity that I was going to be a comedian, but I think they thought I was funny in a more subtle way. Like, I made jokes, like sarcastic and dry humored jokes to my friends, and I also used the internet a lot to be funny. Okay. And so I think people knew I was funny, but they didn't know I was performative, and neither did I. So I wanted to give it a try. I got my start actually in Christian comedy.
Ooh.
Christian comedy, that booming industry.
Ooh, that's where the real money is.
Yeah. You know what? It kind of is. It, to be honest, you actually can make a lot of money in Christian comedy if you like get the hang of it, because a lot of churches and like big events and conferences have a pretty sizable budget for entertainment. So
I guess that's true. Yeah.
Yeah, so they will put the money. No one will probably know who you are. So it kind of depends on your level of like success that you're trying to attain. But you actually can make a pretty steady career. But that's how I started in like the church circuit and stuff. And I put on a fundraiser show for an organization at my university in Windsor. And I brought in a headliner from LA.
Wow.
And I thought she was really funny, and I talked to her on the phone. I was just orchestrating the whole thing, and she thought I was funny, and so she asked me to open for her because I didn't know anything about I didn't know anything about stand-up comedy. I didn't know that what openers were. I didn't know that she would have someone open for her. But she was like, "Hey, you sound like you're interested in like being funny. Why don't you just try it and just like do a little opening set?" So that was my first set ever, was this opening set for this comic. And it was pretty low stakes. It was really fun because it was just like all my friends and family. It was a big event because, it was like the first of its kind. Like people didn't really have comedy shows on campus. Mm-hmm. So it was a pretty nice cushion to enter into the comedy world and to just see how I, fare on stage. And I really liked it. I really had a good time. And I spent like a year doing church circuit comedy for a bit. And I changed, I went through different transitions in my life, and I moved to Toronto. And so I moved away from the whole church comedian thing. I wanted to broaden my horizons and venture out into the world of like actual opportunities for comedy. So that's when I started doing open mics and checking out Yuck Yucks and checking out local shows. I would go watch them all the time, and it kind of snowballed from there. Once I got the ball rolling, I really enjoyed it, and I wanted to get better at it. And so that's how it started.
So, do you still go to open mics to kind of like to test out jokes and stuff? Because I noticed that like comedians, everyone starts doing open mics, and then I feel like you do less and less the more you're, I don't want to say like actually working, but the more you're getting like book shows and paid shows and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it varies for everyone. I definitely stopped going to open mics for a while. I haven't been to one truthfully in a very long time. But I think for the past 3 years, I've always had it like I've been ruminating on that, and I've been actually wanting to get back into open mics so that I could just go back to where I started in practicing and testing material. But for some reason, not some reason, I know the reason. It's nerve-wracking. It's intimidating no matter where you are, I think, in your career, is going back to basics where you don't know how it's going to be received, and chances are it might, it could be received very badly because only 2 people at midnight at the Ossington, and they don't want to be there. And, so it's like it feels scarier. But I do want to try and go back and, once all this is over, I would like to try.
Do you think, so they say that like the audience of an open mic is 90% comedians and then like one couple sitting at a table in the corner. Do you think it's easier to perform for comedians and make other comedians laugh? Or do you think it's easier to just make audience members laugh?
For me, it's easier to make audience members laugh. I think. Well, yeah. I'm not really trying to make comedians laugh because, like, I appreciate it when they do, but I also know I am one, and I know how their mind works, and I know that they're dissecting everything I'm saying. Mm-hmm. They're not watching it for the same reasons that an audience member is watching it, ever. You're watching it from an observer who is watching another person do what you do, and it's really hard to get out of that. So you're constantly dissecting. That's not to say that comedians are not generous with their laughs. Like, they can be, and they can find me funny, and I find them funny, but it's like, it just feels different. It just feels like a different dynamic, and you're watching it for a different reason. And so I personally feel like I would rather make an audience member my target demographic because they're just going in blank.
Yeah, they're just going in to have a good time.
Yeah.
Okay, so you said your first show you opened for someone, which is insane at your university, right?
But I'd like to say that like it sounds more insane, I think, objectively and on paper than it actually was in the moment because I didn't know what any of that meant, and neither did anyone in my life. Like there were no comedians really in Windsor, Ontario. Like there's a bit more of a scene there, but like the only two comedians I know from Windsor, Dave Morhej, huge. But he wasn't there at the time. And then another guy, Rob Mayu, also from Windsor, he had been long been gone. Mm-hmm. And so like I just kind of decided like out of nowhere, this like petite little Christian girl, I'm like, I'm going to revive the comedy scene in Windsor. And I didn't know what the hell I was doing. So I just was just like fumbling with my way through it and doing things that I probably would have been told not to do had I lived in Toronto. But because there were no professionals around to give me advice, I was just fearless. And so for that reason, it felt very low stakes and it was very well received. And then, of course, you go into the real world of like a basement bar in Toronto. I no one had to worry. I was, punched in the face with reality not long after that. So high on my horses from that one opening set.
The cruel, harsh mistress of going to a show and no one laughing.
Yeah.
We've all been there.
Yeah.
So do you remember where your first show was outside of that? Like, do you remember your first paid gig?
My first paid gig?
Yeah.
I remember my first open mic was the, not booked show, but like I did the amateur night at Yak Yak. So that was my first club show that actually felt like a show. I didn't get paid for it, obviously, but it felt more, it was in a club setting. But my first paid gig was this guy who I don't even think does comedy anymore. He used to run a show at Supermarket in Kensington Market. And I had just done a couple of rounds of the Yuck Yucks amateur night, and I decided to reach out to this guy and ask him what I have to do to get on his show, which was booked. And it was like pro-am, but like pretty good acts. Yeah. And I had no business asking, but I didn't know that. And he just put me on. And which was very nice of him. And I had him on Facebook for a while, and he threw me on this show, which when I think about it in retrospect, it's like one of those moments where, where you think back and you're like, oh my gosh, like who did I think I was being there? Like why did I think that I belonged on that lineup? And I'm not being disparaging of myself. I'm going to tell you who was on it, because it was like K. Trevor Wilson, there's Steve Dillon, Matt O'Brien, Julia Ladko. I think Mark Forward might have been there. It was like all these killers who were very well established, and then me. Yeah. And it was really intimidating, and I felt really grateful that he put me on, but like I was like, I don't know what I'm doing here. But it was really fun, though. It was a really good time. It was a great set. It was a great crowd. And yeah, so that was my first paid gig. And yeah, it went pretty well.
So so you said you started in comedy. It seems like by kind of random happenstance. Like you just wanted to throw a show, and then you ended up getting in comedy.
Yeah, because I didn't want to be a stand-up comedian specifically. And I also didn't really grow up around stand-up. Like we watched like comedy shows, but I was also pretty sheltered, sort of like, I wasn't watching Comedy Central stand-up sets. I would secretly watch Dave Chappelle with my friend. We would download audio files from Napster and listen to Napster. We listened to Dave. I remember specifically listening to Dave Chappelle's bit on Sesame Street, which is still one of my favorite bits. And I listened to that on Napster, and then also listened to clips of the Chappelle Show. And so I got to know sketches and stand up through Dave Chappelle secretly. I don't think I would have been allowed to watch him. But yeah, I didn't have any experience, so I did sort of fall into it just by happenstance.
So when did comedy go from this thing you were kind of trying out, doing like that, the pro-ams and the open mic stuff like that, when did that go to being like the career path you're on?
Well, once I was here in Toronto, so I took a class at Second City. It wasn't the stand-up one. It was like, excuse me, it was a comedy writing class.
Okay.
And I had moved to the city to pursue, I was a writer, like I was a freelance writer. And then I eventually became a copywriter. And like, my first job here was, I wrote for like this now defunct online magazine that was like celebrity gossip and lifestyle. And so like I would go to, I would do like food reviews and like celeb gossip, and like they would send me to like parties, like brand launch parties, and I would just like write about them. And so that allowed me to be like a cool nightlife girl for a little while. Because of that, I was able to incorporate like dropping by a comedy show on the job. Yeah. And so that was neat to be able to expose myself to more and more comedy while also working full time at a day job. But I guess I slowly started to realize, like, if I want to do comedy and I want to get better at it, which I did, I'm going to have to make an action plan. So I eventually just kind of like made a schedule of like all the shows I wanted to do in a week that would reasonably make sense for my work schedule, and then like build more and more per month. So I did that, and I kept doing it, and I kept doing it, and I was having more and more fun. And then I got fired from my job. Oh shit. Well, kind of like laid off. It was more the company like went under, and so we all got like removed, and I was like, oh shit, I don't know. I either have to move home or like try and make this comedy thing work here. So I just sort of took a chance on it. I did freelance writing and some copywriting jobs to pay my bills, but then I just really upped my ante with the comedy stuff until I got a few more booked gigs that made me feel confident in the idea, at least, of pursuing it full time. So as long as I had that to hold on to, I was like, okay, I think this can be a thing. I think I'm doing enough shows now. People seem to find me funny enough for me to feel comfortable saying I'm going to be a comedian. Yeah. So, yeah.
So it's interesting. You kind of got started basically by a chance, kind of on a whim, and then you went pro basically again by proxy of just circumstances. Like it was just like a fight or flight thing. Like it was like, I just gotta make it work.
Yeah, exactly. It was pretty much like tunnel vision. Like I think like it was just like, it's this or nothing. I can't hack it because it's expensive to live in Toronto and comedy is hard, and I just have to decide. And so once I decided, it was like things started happening quicker.
What advice would you give to someone? Do you think that, because there's a lot of, I think, debate on the like having a backup plan, having somewhere to, like some people say you can't succeed if you have like a backup plan in place because you'll never fully commit and stuff like that. Where do you stand on that?
I agree with the great Will Smith, who said the same thing. And he said that he just doesn't have backup plans. Like plan B is just not an option because, I mean, well, okay, I'll rescind that a little bit because I have had people message me and ask me if it's like wrong for them to continue having a day job while pursuing comedy. And like, absolutely it's not wrong. Like, and I don't like it when people dissuade others from working to pay their bills and try to make comedy work. Like that's crazy. Like you have to do what you gotta do what you gotta do. So I would say like, don't have a plan B in terms of like long-term livelihood career. If this is what you want to do, you got to decide that this is what you want to do. Because as long as something else is floating around in the periphery, that's going to be an easier option every single time. So it's just like it's a matter of commitment. Yeah, you commit being your long-term goal. And if you have to work at Starbucks or McDonald's or wherever, or an office job in the meantime, that's perfectly fine. But like, make a decision for yourself for sure. If this is what you want, like, it's completely possible for you. So you might as well go for it.
Nice.
Yeah.
So for the why is obviously a very nebulous question. So I kind of like to boil it down. I always have it written down. Why do you do the thing that you do? What is it about comedy that hooked you? Because you said that you weren't, it wasn't necessarily something you did, every single day as a kid like some other people did. You weren't super connected to it before you got into it, So what is it about comedy that hooked you and keeps you going?
Yeah, I think that it allows me to express a part of myself that I honestly didn't really know that I had. As I mentioned, I was very shy and introverted growing up, and I wasn't performative. And I think like the driving force behind my even fleeting curiosity to try it was an inner knowing that there was something performative in me, and I wanted to tap into it. So once I did, I think that it was an adrenaline rush, and it was really fun for me to grow in that and to feed that creativity. And I just really became hooked on that feeling of self-expression on stage that I had never experienced before, and that was maybe felt even contrary to how I am in, real life off stage. Not so much that it's not me, but it just feels like it feels like the me that I see in my head when I'm alone, like you imagine who you are. I get to be that person on stage. And I think that's what kept me hooked on it, was I felt that was a really cool self-expression.
So do you find you're still, like you said, you've been doing it for almost 10 years now. Do you find that separation is still there between Courtney Gilmour, the cat enthusiast, and Courtney Gilmour, stand-up comedian?
Yeah. I'm always a cat enthusiast no matter, no matter on stage or off. That's a good question. So, I mean, it's been 10 years since those first couple of times that I tried it, but it's been a little bit less, like around 7 or 8 years that I've been like in it and being paid for it. But, it's a good question, because I've been thinking about that lately in terms of, I think there still is a divide for me, because I do feel like myself on stage. I have fun on stage, but part of me wonders why I kind of isolate that part of me only to on stage. Like there are times where I'm like, how come I don't express this Courtney personality in social situations? Because again, like when I'm alone in my apartment, the voice that's in my head is different from what I express with my friends, or like when I'm at a comedy bar but not on stage. And I think it bugs me a little bit. And I've been thinking about that because I want to I have a couple of like podcast projects that I want to start up. And one of them, I've been toying with the idea of having a solo podcast where I just talk the way I am. Like I just talk like the comedian, and I'm unfiltered, and I don't care about how I'm presenting. And I think that would help me bridge that gap and connect those two parts of me that I don't think are that far apart. But for some reason, like I just keep Courtney the comedian on stage and let her stay there. And so I think that's a really interesting question. I don't think that it's so far removed that I'm like, a Jekyll and Hyde, completely two different people. But yeah, there's something that's been like a missing link there for me between stage and cat enthusiast that I think I'm trying to bridge lately. So yeah, I'm still thinking about that.
I think it's an interesting idea too. Like the idea of like, it's almost like you have a podcast that's your own journal. Like you're basically
Yes.
These are all of my thoughts and opinions and whatever, listen to it if you want to, but this is for me.
Yes, absolutely. Because I know that's the way I think and talk when I'm by myself is when, I think this is like a commonly, even like a studied thing that like when you're by yourself is when you feel the most like yourself. Like you the voice in your head and the way you think and imagine yourself to be, that's who you want to be all the time if you can. And then you venture out into the world and there's all these filters and perceived barriers. And I would love to break those down by just allowing myself to be a little bit more vulnerable and, oblivious maybe to what people think. And I think podcasts would, like a journal-y kind of podcast. I think you're right. That would be the perfect outlet for that.
I think that's a really cool idea.
Cool, it's done. I'm doing it.
Sick. Done. You heard it here first, folks. Exclusive for the Let's Be Best Friends podcast. So, on the show, I always ask the guests what they'd like to do because I think the best way to have a conversation with anyone is to put them in an environment that they're comfortable in, that we're all having a good time in. And you chose a doing like a coloring book page.
I chose coloring, yes.
Tell me a little bit about that. Why coloring?
Okay, so I loved coloring when I was a kid, as a lot of us did. And as an adult, there's like this resurgence of coloring for adults, like adults coloring as stress relief and therapy and stuff. So I've been dabbling in that world of coloring, and it's like a nostalgia thing, which is also cool. But so this is the coloring book that I have. So it's a unicorn.
Love it.
Coloring book, but you'll notice that it says for kids ages 4 to 8. And I was very deliberate about this because in my quest to find a good coloring book, I started looking into adult coloring books, and they're terrifying. I don't know if you have one, but they're like the drawings that you're supposed to color are so intimidating and like magnificent in their artwork that it gives me a panic attack just looking at some of them. Like they're
the exact opposite of what it's supposed to do.
It's negating the very thing that it's supposed to be. And also it's like taking the childhood part out of it, which is not what we're going back to. Like that's I don't like it when, so I think adult coloring books are a little bit ridiculous. But I just don't like it when adults try to adultify kid things. I think that doesn't work very well. Like, I don't know. We do this a lot of stuff, like making an adult version of fruit roll-ups. Guess what that turned out to be? Fruit to go and fruit leather and all that stuff. It's not quite as good as the childhood. The childhood version is always better, I feel. So that's why I love
fruit to go. I'll be honest with you.
Well, you know,
fruit to go is so good. I remember they have like the little fruit leather strips that are like the airheads, but they're made of fruit. And now they have bars, which are just like thick fruit to goes.
Oh no!
And I feel like most logical people's reaction is that. I think that's the correct reaction. But I saw that and I was like, "Fuck yeah!" And I bought like a whole case.
I mean, you like what you like, so that's perfectly fine. But would you choose it over a fruit roll-up?
Honestly, probably.
Oh my gosh! Really? Wow.
I hit. I don't know what age I hit, but I hit some age barrier, and it was when I was like 17. And I just like stopped eating candy and dessert as much and just got really into fruit. I love fruit, man. Okay. I'm a big old fruit.
Big old fruit. Well, that's good. Fruit is good for you. So if you like it in leather form, that's your body choice. But that's really surprising to me because I always feel like those are the snacks that like are collecting dust on the shelves. That's why I was like, oh, this is going to be a perfect reference that he's totally going to get on board with. Is the adult version of fruit roll up is fruit to go, and then you'd be like, yeah, it's not. But no, that was a left turn there. But you know what? That's what happens, and that's why adult coloring books are pretty successful. Like they're not people love them. I actually do have one. I have one that's like, I bought, it's like all these, what are they called? Mandalas or something? It's like this design that's supposed to be for stress therapy. And I think it's supposed to like emit some sort of spiritual thing that I don't think that I believe in, but it's very pretty. But then you look at it, and then I saw this one of a giant lion head, and there's just so many components and so many layers that I'm like, where do you begin with this? Like, I want something really friggin' simple, you know, like some balloons and a unicorn. That's all you need to do, you know?
I do agree with you though, because when I was looking up I'm doing mine on my computer. I went and Googled.
Okay.
I just Googled coloring book, right? Like coloring book page.
Yeah.
And I thought it'd be easy enough. And it was like a bunch of ones for like graduation and stuff, you know, very seasonal stuff. And then there was all the adult ones, and I was like, oh, I'm not going to be able to talk while I'm trying to do this, you know, multi-piece thing. And then I found that Crayola has this set of coloring books that are just a sloth and a llama hanging out and doing weird things. So I've got a sloth and a llama surfing.
Oh, nice. That's fun. I like that. I'm
very excited about.
Okay, I'm going to do a page that is, and I'll periodically, like, show my work, but it says, believe in unicorn. And it's got a rainbow, and I'm really drawn to rainbows, and I like unicorns. And I got some pre-sharpened pencil crayons, and I love a good pencil crayon. So that's what I'm starting with.
It's funny because I was thinking about how I was when you suggested it, I was totally on board, and I was thinking about it, I was like, oh, I'll probably do it on my computer, but I was like, oh, I could do it at home, and then I realized I don't own anything. Like I own paint, but
you don't have
own
equipment.
Yeah, I thought about it, and I realized for the first time in my life, I don't have any crayons, pencil crayons, markers. I have like Sharpies and paint, and that's it. Like.
Yeah. I mean, I ordered them on Amazon, and I realized that, I've been ordering so much stuff online in quarantine, but I love ordering a whole bunch of stuff on Amazon and then using Prime, and then it all comes on the exact same day, and it's like Christmas, and it's so exciting. So I got the pencil crayons, I got the coloring book, I got a hair dryer.
Oh wow! And, you went full on.
I went full on. I'm coloring in a rainbow. Also, when you learned about the rainbow in school, did you learn like a song or like an acronym to remember the colors?
Ours was it was like red and orange and yellow and blue and Roy G green and blue. What is it? Something like that.
Mine was like red and yellow and pink and green, purple and orange and blue. I can see a rainbow, see a rainbow, see a rainbow too.
I like that you remember that.
I sing it all the time. Every time I see a rainbow, you know.
I'm sitting here trying to remember my Roy G. Bivs. That's how I learned it.
Roy G. Biv is a good one.
Well, it's funny because I remember when I was in broadcasting school and we were learning about like color correction, the teacher was like, "So, does everyone remember their rainbow colors?" And we all looked at each other like, "No." Like.
Also, I love the use of acronyms is really interesting because it's like it's a tool for you to memorize something. But why would you memorize why would you memorize Roy G. Biv? Like why would would that be memorable to you?
I don't know. That's a good question.
Roy G. Biv. How do you remember that though? Unless you think of it like maybe it's a guy's name.
Roy G. Biv. Ooh,
Roy G.
interesting.
Biv. He's like the Mr. Rainbow.
Have you met Mr. Rainbow? Oh, Roy G. Biv. Yeah, for sure.
Roy G. Biv. The guy who invented rainbows, you know?
Yeah, you just put him up there one day.
Yeah, see, this is how folklore gets started. This is how education turns into myth, is you start telling stories about that. Like little shortcuts and loopholes to help you remember things will actually lead to you remembering lies and things that are not true.
See, that's one of the main things that I feel like I know. I was trying to write a bit about this, but I know that I'm not ready to have kids yet because I'm not responsible enough to not fuck with them. Like if I had a kid, I'd be like the sky is green.
Oh, really?
I would let them believe that for way too long.
That's really funny.
Like an alarming amount of time. People will be like, shouldn't you tell him? And I'd be like, nah. He'll figure it out someday. Or he won't. Maybe he'll just get to live in that universe, you know?
I feel like, I mean, at least my generation of, like, people, like, my friends, like, our parents did do that, for sure. Or, I can't tell if they were messing with us, or if they actually, I think my mom told me stuff that she really believed, but, like, was totally, like, because there was no Snopes.com around. And so she just passed on things that were not true, but she just, like, swore by.
Yeah, I feel like our parents' generation was one of the last generations to have that kind of, like, the old wives' tale kind of thing.
Yeah, old wives' tales, for sure.
Where they would just, like, have knowledge that wasn't true.
Yeah, exactly. Or, you know what I learned? Okay, so an example of that is, well, two examples. So my mom, she told me when I was growing up, when I was a teenager, and I started, like, learning about, like, feminine hygiene and stuff, and, like, shaving your legs and stuff, she told me that you don't need to shave your legs above the knee because it's not noticeable enough. So
that's so smart.
But the thing is, my mom is a platinum blonde woman, and I'm not. I have dark hair. And so she was speaking from her experience as a blonde with, like, very minimal noticeable hair on her legs, and I wasn't. And so I noticed I would shave to the knee and not above, and then I would just still have very dark coarse hair, and I would just be like, well, I guess that's the way it's supposed to be.
You would just still have shorts on.
You know, not that it matters how you're shaving your legs or if you do or don't, but, like, I found that really funny that she was just not really considering that I'm a brunette lady, and it was very different from hers. But another one, a big one, was when you were in school, did they ever collect soda pop tabs?
Yeah, tabs, yeah.
Tell you that they were used, that you recycle those and they're used to make wheelchairs?
Yeah.
They don't do that.
Oh my God.
It's not real.
What?
They don't make wheelchairs out of Coke tabs? I was so sure.
I guess not, huh? I guess when you think about it.
I guess that guy's not rolling around in Coke tabs. That's crazy. I would hope, and when you think about it, I'm like, why would that make sense? Like, Coke tab wheelchairs, can we not really advance our technology that we can, you know?
I always just thought, I guess I didn't really think about it too hard. I was just like, oh yeah, well they just like melt them down and make them into whatever, like. Yep.
Apparently, I've looked that up multiple times, and apparently that is not the case at all.
So what do they do with them? Do they just throw them out? Like.
What they do with them beyond collecting them, I don't know. I don't know where they're sending them to. I don't know what's happening. I don't know if, like, some guy who just loves collecting tabs started this rumor and it all goes to him, and he's like, oh yeah, just send them to me, you know. Or maybe he has some crazy, like, I don't know.
There's some dude with a mansion made of Coke tabs somewhere.
Give me all your Coke tabs and I'll for sure, you know, I'm going to melt them down. I'm going to give them to some people with wheelchairs.
That's crazy.
So, I know.
I haven't even thought about that in years. That's the funniest part. But I remember so vividly, like, save your pop can tabs.
Yep, totally.
I used to know a guy who would collect the pop can tabs, and he would make shit out of them.
Really?
So, like, yeah. So, like, we used to LARP. Do you know what LARPing is?
No.
So LARPing it's live action role playing, and basically you go in a forest with, like, a bunch of other people, and you play Dungeons and Dragons, but, like, in real life. So, like, you make a character, and you make, like, a fake weapon, and you make fake armor, and all this stuff, and you go into the forest, and you play as this character.
Okay.
And it's the nerdiest thing on God's green earth. It is the nerdiest invention of man, but it's so much fun. And so he would make, like his fake armor and shields and shit out of these pop can tabs that he would, like, glue together, or, like, he'd get his dad to help him, like, weld it together.
Oh my gosh, that's really intense.
Yeah.
Did it look good?
I mean, it looked like an amalgamation of pop can tabs, but when you look at what the rest of us were wearing, like dusters from Value Village and shit because we thought we looked like Final Fantasy characters. Like, nobody looked good per se, but
yeah.
when everyone, it's one of those things that like when everyone's on board, it's one of the most fun things you can possibly do. And if you're willing to go in a forest and like for a weekend and just completely get lost in it, it's so much fun.
I can see how that would be true. You have to go all in. If you're going to commit to that, you might as well be the guy who makes your costume out of pop tabs.
Yeah, exactly.
That's cool. I like that. I like that he committed that hard to it.
Oh yeah, great guy. I haven't seen him in a while.
I've never done like stuff like that. I've never done like role play or Dungeons and Dragons, like those kind of live action things. Is that like is that like a big part of like stuff that you like to do?
Yeah, I've been playing D&D. Holy shit. Let me think.
You're a veteran.
It's been a long time. What year is it? 2020? It's probably been over 10 years.
Wow.
I've been playing D&D since I was a very young man.
Holy, that's so cool. With the same people, or do you like?
Oh no, it's funny because like the number one thing about D&D is that anyone who plays it will tell you it's one of the most fun games ever. It's so much like fun. You hang out with these people who are all committed and all that stuff. But like as you get older, like when I was in high school, it was easy because it was with the same like 4 or 5 guys. We'd hang out every weekend. We'd like get in one guy's basement and we'd play D&D. Easy. Yeah. Now, when you're an adult, it's like everyone has jobs and partners and kids and whatever, right? So.
Oh yeah, we have to work around everybody's schedule.
Yeah. So booking off like 9 hours, like 8 or 9 hours to sit down and like do something like that, like get really lost in D&D is harder. It's actually easier now with quarantine. Because no one has, like, it's a little less so now because everyone's kind of going back to work. But when no one had jobs, it's like, oh, we're all unemployed. Like, no one's doing anything. Let's play D&D.
Yeah. When you go out, so you go to a forest to play it?
Yeah, so you'd go to, like, so there'd be, like, nature reserves. You know, you can, like, rent them to go camping and shit?
Yeah. So
they would rent them. They would rent out this, like, you know, whatever, X by X amount of land. And you'd bring like a tent and you'd bring like food and water, you basically bring camping shit and you go camping with the addition that you are, you know, an elf who casts magic and shit.
Cool.
It was wicked, man.
That's so fun.
It's so hard to explain to people like that. I acknowledge that it's literally the nerdiest thing a human being can do. But it's so much fun.
I think that I understand why people would think it's nerdy and that, like, not that nerdy is a negative thing at all, but, like, I can see how some people would hear that and think that it's weird. But I think that's a really fun... That's like, you know what? That's very similar to something like coloring, where you just embrace it and you do it, and it's a fun thing for you to do. And you don't have to be apologetic about it. And it's a fun, like, little... I like that it's like a getaway, too. Like, you actually get to go somewhere and be around your friends.
Yeah. That was the thing about it for me, is that at the end of the day, it was like, this is hanging around people I liked hanging around with. And just, you know.
Yeah.
We were all young-ish, you know.
Yeah.
Just fucking around in a forest, man.
Has anything really crazy happened in the forest when you were out there? Has anything happened that like disrupted the activity, like the game?
There was one time where, so we used to do it at this place in Oshawa. I don't know what it's called anymore, but they also, so it's a big nature reserve, and so the LARP guys would get like half the forest, say. And half the forest is all ours. We'd set up all these things in it, whatever.
Yeah.
And then the other half this time was a wedding.
Uh-oh.
So there were like, they made boundaries. So it was like, don't go outside these boundaries. Outside of these boundaries, we're not, like, that's not our part of the forest. So if you go outside these boundaries, like just, you know, you're not in the game. So there was one time, there was, like, we were doing an event where we were getting chased by something. I don't remember what it was anymore. Like in the game.
Yeah.
Chased by goblins or some shit. and we're running, and we run into the wedding party.
Oh,
I guess
no.
they were like trying to take pictures or whatever. And, and so we're all like in face paint and like, again, like this big clunky armor and fake weapons and shit, like yelling at each other. And then there's just this completely normal wedding happening. And we just like run past them. We're just like, sorry. And we keep going. Like,
Oh, wow. That's quite the, I feel like that's a contribution to their wedding, you know? A little
that's what
something.
I said.
Yeah.
I was like, they just had the best wedding story ever. They're going to go to the reception and be like, do you see those nerds who are running around the forest?
Yeah, they got like a free little edition of D&D theme in their wedding.
we had a LARP themed wedding.
Was it just a ceremony though?
I think it was, if I remember correctly, it was just them, like, it was like just the wedding party. So it wasn't the actual like ceremony, because I would have felt so much worse about that.
You interrupt their vows.
Yeah, that's like such a moment that you're just like, well, your wedding's fucked because the nerds had to run through.
Yeah, because that's the last thing that you think is going to disrupt your wedding. Like, you're just, at that point, you're just happy that, like, it's not raining or something.
Yeah.
You're not, or, you know, like a cavalcade of D&D players to, you know.
You gotta be wary of those wily D&D players. I think it's in the brochure when you do an outdoor wedding.
Yeah, exactly,
Be aware
for sure.
of the D&D players.
If you're going to have a wedding, an outdoor wedding, you have to be prepared for anything to happen, the elements, a storm, or D&D players interrupting.
Oh, if I ever run a wedding venue, I'll have that as an option in the package. I'll be like, do you want the LARPers to run through? Like, I can make it happen.
Absolutely. How's your coloring going?
It's going. I'm getting this. I feel like I'm spending a lot of time drawing over the lines on them, like doing line work on it, because I feel like I'm doing it on a computer, so I have so much like wiggle room to like make mistakes and just undo it.
Yeah, I feel like you would. Is it like, are you using the trackpad to? Is it like MS Paint?
I'm using Photoshop. Wow,
you're going like really graphic design. I just finished my rainbow, so I'm getting into I think I'm going to do the Believe in Unicorn text or the horn.
Yeah.
A unicorn's horn should be rainbow colored, or should it be one color?
You know, I debate this all the time. I've always said that a unicorn's horn is whatever color, like, its skin is.
Oh, really?
Like, to me, because I remember when I was a kid, I learned about unicorns through, like, Lord of the Rings and shit. So it was like a red, or like it was like a white horse with a white horn and, like, a flowing mane and whatever.
There's just so much temptation to fill it in with color, because the horn has different, like, specify like lines, like little layers that it looks like you're supposed to fill in. So it makes you think that it should be colorful.
You got to follow your dreams, man. You can color that unicorn however you want to color it.
I know. Yes, that's very true. But also, like, these unicorns in this book, their manes are like salon quality, lustrous, beautiful hairdos.
They're like Fabio unicorns.
Yeah.
They take care of themselves. They just want.
They look like.
You see their manes.
Yeah, they look like This looks like a combination of My Little Pony, just with unicorns. I loved My Little Pony.
That's what I was gonna ask. Were you a My Little Pony kid growing up?
Huge. Loved My Little Pony.
Did you ever watch the new show that they did?
I didn't watch it, but it looks beautiful. Like, the animation looks really cool.
Yeah.
I had the toys and the books. That was my thing.
Books? I guess there were books and everything.
Yeah, there were books, and then the ponies would come with there were sniffable ones. They were scented, kind of like on their butts a little bit.
I remember that.
And then they had like long hair, nothing like this glamness, like, but you would comb them. You could comb their hair, which I really loved.
I remember watching the commercials for toys when I was a kid, and I like Like, as stated, I was a huge nerd, and I still am. So, like, when I was a kid, I was like video games and toy cars. Because to me, it was like, those are things that you can tangibly play with. Like, it's a toy car. You put it on a ramp, it goes on the ramp, it looks cool, you do it again.
Yeah.
And I would see the commercials for, like, the baby dolls and the My Little Ponies you could brush the hair of, and I was like, why would you want to brush a toy's hair? I don't even like brushing my own hair.
Yeah, it seems like work.
Literally, all the girls' toys always seemed like work, and I was like, why?
Yeah. They were work, and also they were largely they were pretty creepy. Like, it is very creepy. Babies play with baby dolls.
It's crazy. Like, obviously, as an adult now, it's like patriarchy and all that, but like, it's crazy, man.
It is crazy, and I had all that. I was into all that stuff, but I had baby dolls. I was more into Barbie though, and like really pretty things. But I definitely had some babies, and they had like horrific cries. Like, they would cry, and it was just like very stressful. Yeah. And then you think, why am I responsible for this thing being quiet? It's very strange.
I remember at the babysitters I used to go to when I was a kid, there was like maybe 10 kids, mixture of boys and girls.
Yeah.
So the boys would like that. We'd all play video games, and we would like, and the girls would too, not to like exclude them or whatever. But like, there was 2 buckets of toys. There was like a blue bucket that had like the G.I. Joes and the Batman and like, and all the boy toys, quote unquote. And then there was the pink bucket, which had all these horrific looking dolls that cried and peed, and you had to feed them. And I was like, why would you ever choose the pink box?
I know, but we did, and we were just, I guess, you're like conditioned to think that that's what you should gravitate towards, and so you do. But like, it was a lot of stress, and then you grow up a little bit more, and then you start like, a big thing for me was in junior high, I loved Tamagotchis and Nano Babies. So, but those were fun, because to me there was like an element of like, it almost seemed like Alien, like taking care of an alien. It wasn't like a baby. It was like a little creature. And I love Neopets too. Love Neopets.
Oh, hell yeah.
Rest in peace, my little Kachik, who the last time I checked up on him, which was not even that long ago, he is deceased, unfortunately.
Oh, no. I didn't know Neopets could die.
Yeah, they can die.
That's so sad.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they can die, or at least they definitely get to a point where they look awful, and they clearly are starving, and they tell you that they're starving.
I remember that. I remember if you didn't treat your Neopets well, they could like leave. Like, they'd get pissed off and leave. Yeah,
you didn't get enough. What was the food that they ate? When you could buy a bunch of stuff.
You could buy. It was like depending, because they had all the different lands. So it was like Halloween Land had like brains and shit.
Yeah.
Oh man, it's funny. I did a stream where we played Neopets. We made like a Neopets account, and I haven't checked up on them since, and I feel very bad about that fact.
Yeah, man, I love Neopets. They're so fun. I was just thinking about one strange. Like, do you ever think back about like on your childhood and realize that you did some really strange things that may have contributed to like your current like behaviors or worldview? So for example, like my friends and I would play house all the time. And so when I was a kid, so I don't think I want kids. I'm like pretty sure I don't want kids. I know for sure I don't want to be pregnant. Yeah. But I never wanted kids even when I was a kid. Like, it's not something that I was never into weddings or children. Even when I had baby dolls, it still felt very like, I wasn't like, oh, I'm a mom or going to be a mom. It was just like pretend. Yeah. But one thing that I think about often as like a defining moment in perhaps what shaped my attitude towards who I wanted to be as an adult was when I would play house. And when all of them were choosing their roles, like, oh, I'm going to be the mom, and I'm going to be the daughter and the dad and whatever, we're going to be the babies playing. I would go to my best friend's house, and our parents would be hanging out upstairs, and we'd go to the basement and play house. And my character, I created this character named Anne Marie, and Anne Marie was a full-grown woman, and I would wear these like knee-high boots and like some kind of like cowboy hat and a dress. And the bit was that all the kids would be hiding from me, and I would play this drunk mom who would come like stumbling down the stairs after a night of partying, and I would like chase them around the basement and like be weird and like play games with them. But I was always like a party mom, and I was always drunk for some reason. Not actually, but that was like part of the character. It was like, oh, Anne Marie is gonna come chase us around the basement. And that's a really weird memory to have, and I don't know where that came from. Like, I don't know why I thought that was like a cool thing to do, was to be like an alcoholic mother, because it's not. And mine was that was not my parenting at all. So I don't know if it was like a level of escapism that I was like, oh, this must be what life is like outside of my home. I don't know. It was so bizarre.
Outside of my bubble, everyone is a drunk stepmom.
Yeah, it was like drunk stepmom vibes, and I just kind of figured, well, I don't really know what it's like to be a mom, and I didn't fantasize about it, so that was my interpretation of like what real life looks like. Because you go out and you party, you're Anne Marie who like comes home from the clubs and then just like acts like a crazy person.
I love that your addition to playing house was being a crazy drunk stepmother. That's so funny.
Maybe it was like, it was like my contribution to dysfunction in the house. Like, maybe I was trying to say that like not every house is like perfect and like white picket fence and like the nuclear family. Like, sometimes you're gonna have a drunk stepmom, you know?
You're giving these kids a lesson on life, and they're just trying to brush their My Little Ponies.
They loved it though. It wasn't like I don't know. It was like we were playing hide and seek, but I was drunk. Like, I was supposed to play drunk. So yeah, very strange memory.
I know I played house growing up, because I think every kid played house growing up, but I have no memories of it, like, at all. I don't have any vivid memories of it.
I mean, it's kind of a boring game when you really think about it. Like, you're playing the most mundane thing ever.
It's like, I don't want to do. We used to play Manhunt. There was a lot of kids who lived on my street.
Okay, yeah.
And it was like the early thousands, late 90s. So like, you know, you could let your kids out the house at night.
Yeah.
So we would, like, the streetlights would turn on, and we would go out and play Manhunt, and there'd be like 20 kids.
Yeah.
And say, like, we'd set the boundaries and then just run around screaming in a neighborhood.
Yeah, that's fun.
That's what I remember. It's like that and road hockey are the like things that stick out in my head.
Yeah, there's a lot of like backyard play or like street play. We definitely went out and played on the street a lot. Lots of stuff.
And it's funny because now if I see kids on the, like, just walking around by themselves on the street, I'm like, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah.
You're gonna get like kidnapped and like.
I know, it does not feel safe to do that anymore. I was thinking about that recently too, because we used to walk home from school sometimes, and like I was thinking, I was like, we were alone for like a prolonged period of time.
Yeah.
Like, walking down the street, like, would that happen now? I don't know if kids still do that, but it feels kind of risky.
It's crazy. Like, I walked home from school every single day, and like I took the bus in high school, like.
Yeah.
And I would bus to work, like, before I knew how to drive, I just, like, bussed and walked everywhere. And it's funny, because, again, I think about that all the time, where, like, I'm the same, where I don't know if I want kids. I've never really wanted kids. I figure I'll, like, cross that bridge when I get to it.
Yeah.
But, like, I can't imagine having a kid right now. It's terrifying.
Yeah, we also lived, we had in our backyard, there was like a large expanse of, it was the green belt. It was like a large expanse of space, and it was just a field. Okay. And it was a really big field, really big. And there was just one solitary kind of creepy playground that was just right at the very corner of it. And we would go back there all the time, like at night or during the day, but it was so big that like you could just wander back there, and there could be some perv guy hanging around and no one would know. Like, we just wouldn't have thought about that.
It's the things I remember doing when I was a kid and like an early teenager. I think about it and I'm like, I could have fucking died.
Did you grow up in Toronto?
No, I grew up in Ajax.
Oh, okay.
Represent. There was a park in Ajax I remember called Ghost Park. I don't remember what it was actually called.
Ghost Park?
We called it Ghost Park. And so what you did when you were a kid is you would go there at night because drug dealers would be there.
Oh my God.
So you'd go there and like it was like one of those stupid kid things where it's like, how long can you stay in Ghost Park without being a pussy or whatever? Whatever it was, right?
Yeah.
And so I remember the story attached to Ghost Park was that there was an insane asylum on the other side of the hill, and and like they let the crazies out at night so that they can like get their exercise.
What?
but they're not monitored because they're crazy. Like they don't. If they kill you, they're crazy, so they're not going to go to jail. And it was like,
wow.
How long can you stay in Ghost Park?
Did you make it? And like, what was your record timing in Ghost Park?
I was a big bitch when I was a kid. I was like,
really?
You know the like the classic like the Scooby-Doo kind of thing. I was like Velma. I was like, this is a bad idea.
Really?
Yeah, when I was a kid, I was a very good kid. Like I never skipped school. I never I didn't cuss. I didn't talk back. I was a really good kid until I hit high school, and then I discovered punk music, and everything was down the hill.
That's really funny. So I feel like I definitely was too, very goody-goody, and I think I would have been really scared by that. I think that's the reason why I really enjoy scary movies now, is because there's like a little element of rebellion in me that never indulged the scary parts when I was a kid, and so now it's like even more titillating to think about scary situations and scary movies and stuff like that.
I don't know what it is about scary movies. They freak my whole shit out. Like I'm the kind of person, if I watch a scary movie, I can't sleep for like a week.
Oh my gosh, I picked the wrong thing for us to do. We should have been watching scary movies. That's what I would love. Than just scar you for life. No, I get that, but for some reason I would have assumed that you were like super into horror. I don't know why.
I like it a lot. I think it's one of the most interesting genres of fiction. Because it's so interesting to me I like studying horror. I think that's my thing. Like, oh really? Okay. I like reading about it. I like studying it. Like I like watching essays about it and stuff like that, because I can't watch the movies because they freak me out too much. But I think that fact is so fascinating to me that like I want to know why, like what is it about horror movies that do that? What
is it about horror? So, and what is it that makes, because I think that horror movies, like a good horror movie will freak anyone out, but what is the difference between someone who loves that and someone who hates it?
I think for me personally, I have a lot of like anxiety and like depression and stuff like that. So like I've got a lot of like chemical stuff to do with it. And then otherwise, I think I just have like, I've always had a very vivid imagination. Yeah. So I remember when I was a kid, I would like watch a horror movie with my friends because we were like, 12 and 13 and whatever. And that's like what you did. And then I would go home and I'd try and go to bed and like, there's like something in the corner of your room, and it would freak my shit out every time.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing about horror movies, is that there's always that idea in the back of your mind, no matter how crazy you might think it is, it's like that this could be real.
Yeah. Like on the off chance that, like I say this all the time, on the off chance that aliens exist, I'm fucked. Because they'll pop in and they'll be like, yo, take me to your leader, and I'm going to be like, I don't know, and they're going to kill me, and I'm going to just die.
Yeah, I don't want anyone popping in. I love scary movies, but I don't mess around with like I won't use a Ouija board, and I know that's so dumb, but I won't. And what was the other thing I was gonna say? Oh, I don't want ghostly experiences. I'm not interested in trying to create, even if it's just like an illusion of it. I don't want that. And I told my parents, I was like, when you guys die, don't haunt me, and don't even come back to, like, if there's such thing as this, like if there's such thing as actually having contact with the dead or whatever, don't even give me a sign to tell me that you're okay. Don't pop by. Don't send me, like, as far as I'm concerned, no news is good news. Like, just don't freak me out. Like, I don't even think I would like a positive experience. I just don't want anything like that. I just want to watch a movie about it, but I don't want any kind of, like, encounters.
It's funny. I'm the exact same way, where I'm like, on the off chance, like, I know that Ouija boards are bullshit. Like, they're sold by Hasbro, so they can't be real. But, like, on the off chance that they are, I don't want to fuck with it.
No.
That's not, that's energy. That's bad energy, man. Like, I don't know.
I agree. And I think no matter what's real or not, I think your imagination is very powerful.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
If it causes you to create an experience that is unpleasant for you, I don't think why are you inducing that? Why are you trying to create that for yourself?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's so funny about Hasbro. Like, the same company that made Frogger, putting out spirit boards.
Exactly. That's the thing people always come back, like, anyone who's ever tried to get me to do a Ouija board, and they're like, come on, man, they're just made of plastic. Like, they're obviously nothing. And I'm like, cool, then why are we doing it?
I know. One time for a comedy show, I had to, it was like a themed comedy show, and we had to, like, dress up as characters. And I decided to be a Ouija board, and I think it was a Halloween one or something like that. But I decided to be, or it was toys, and I wanted to be a Ouija board, but I wasn't going to wear a real one because I didn't even want to buy a real one. Yeah. So I was like, I'm just going to make one. So it was me and Dan Curtis Thompson, who you know, and. Yeah, so we bought, like, this huge cardboard piece, and we're like, we'll just draw all the symbols and stuff. And so we had this huge piece of cardboard on my apartment floor, and we got black markers, and we started drawing all the symbols. And I swear to God, Cole, my cat lost her shit out of nowhere. My cat came over to the board and started growling and clawing at the board, and it was so crazy.
That's not good.
I'm not saying that a ghost was there or anything, but I really think this. I think that my anxiety was already so high at peak level that, like, even my own cat could like, sense it, and it, like, put out an energy of something being not right, and she picked up on it. And I think that's what, or maybe it was a demon, I don't know, but it really freaked me out. She's never done that before. This is a real, Dan will tell you, he was there, that happened. She started just clawing at the board, and it really freaked me out. I did not like it.
It's funny because you're so rational about it. Like, I'm listening to this story, and I'm like, if that's me, I'm lighting that thing on fire. Like, the cat starts meowing, I take it outside, I light it on fire. Nope.
No, I totally get it. But I think that's the thing is, it doesn't matter to me whether it's real or not. It's a real experience that you're having. Who gives a shit whether it's a demon or it's your imagination? Both are unpleasant. So, yeah.
I'd rather it be a demon at that point. Because then again, then I light the board on fire, demon's gone. Boom. If it's my brain, I have to take medication. Like, I don't want to do that.
You think that if you lit the board on fire, that would be the end of it?
I feel like it's a 50-50 shot. Either you light it on fire and the demon's gone, or you light it on fire, it makes the demon stronger, and you're dead either way.
Yeah, that's what I think. Maybe you're empowering it and stuff. I don't want to empower it. Also, you have to, like, maybe it will come back because you didn't say goodbye to the board. That's like, you have to have. Isn't that kind of funny that spirit boards, like, encourage you to have, like, polite etiquette?
Yeah, there's, like, rules.
You're a demon. Like, you're conjuring yourself and like wreaking havoc onto people's lives, but we have to like be polite and say please and thank you and like hello, goodbye.
But that's the other thing. Maybe I let it on fire. It empowers the demon, and he's not pissed. He's like, yo, thanks, buddy. And I'm just like, got you.
Oh, yeah.
Now I'm cool, and now I got a cool demon friend. Like,
that's true. Yeah. And then he turns out to kind of like be the genie, like the genie in Aladdin.
Oh my God. I think we just wrote a screenplay. I think we just wrote the next summer comedy blockbuster.
I think we did.
Beautiful. How is your unicorn coming along?
It's coming along nicely. I'm going to show it to you. It's definitely not anywhere near done, but it's definitely coming. It's definitely good. Well, good in terms of it's got a decent amount of coverage. So I don't know if you can see. There's the rainbow.
Oh, look at that. It is very My Little Pony.
Yeah, right? And so she's purple, and I gave her some green hooves, because why not? And she's got a blue collar, probably going to add some colors. Yeah, I think I'm very pleased with this. I feel relaxed. How about you?
I feel very calm. I feel like the art episodes that I've done so far have been very, like, it's very chill. It's so much easier to have a conversation when you're just drawing.
That's really true. That is what I'm noticing in this adventure that I've never done. I don't think I've done a podcast where we were doing things, but I really like it. I think you've got a really good theme here.
Oh, thanks.
Because it makes people feel very at ease.
Yeah.